The entire team at the Emsolation podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians and cultures of the lands and seas on which we live and work. We pay our respects to all First Nations peoples, elders and ancestors. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and stand in solidarity towards a shared future. I personally want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I record this podcast every week, the Wurundjeri people. I recognise their continued connection to the land and waters of this beautiful place I call home. Always was, always will be.
Em Russiano.
With a smattering of blonde hair on the cheeks, but not too much around the butthole. If I could just tell you how stunning his bottom is.
And Michael Lucas.
You have a high capacity to feel a personal attack.
This is Emsolation.
Full respect for you calling yourself a 40-year-old, not a 40-something. Well done, well done, well done. Let's hold on to that.
I'm younger than you, bitch.
You are.
You're in Emsolation.
Hello and welcome to Emsolation. My name is Em Russiano. I'm a writer, a singer, a stand-up comedian, a maximalist power queen, a podcaster, a neurodivergent magic brain, and together with my best friend, award-winning, acclaimed, Australian royalty, screenwriter extraordinaire, Mr. Michael Lucas, my best friend since I was 11. Did I already say that? Oh, God. You know what's going on rotation in my head? We don't talk about Bruno, no. We don't... It's going to be in your head now. We don't talk about Bruno. Is it okay if I can I put on a Spanish accent because I'm Italian?
It's me, Mario.
Is that okay? I think so. I'll check. What was I saying? Hi! Today has been chaotic and hectic. And even though I did just introduce my very best friend, he will not be joining us today. Now, don't you go anywhere, because don't worry, I have some formidable replacements. Not replacements, just, I don't know, designated hitters off the bench, big hitters. Yes, Michael Lucas has just informed me. Now, it is late in the day for us. Normally we record on a Wednesday morning, but it is late Wednesday. We've been waiting for Michael to be able to get out of bed because he has shocking gastro. So bad that Chella, my daughter, drove 45 minutes to his house from ours to deliver lemonade and crackers and gastro stop and hydrolyte. And I'm going to be going back around there later tonight to check he's okay because Adrian, his husband, is away. And he was valiant in his efforts to attend the podcast. He even sent a picture of himself laying in bed, sweating. And I said, babe, sit it out. Don't worry. Look, Oscar nominations did come out, and for all episodes for Michael Lucas to miss, this is not ideal. But stepping in for Michael Lucas today is none other than your social media captain, Chella Russiano Barrow, my daughter. Huzzah! Purveyor and consumer of every single movie, to ever be released. I mean, that's not true. But she really likes movies, is what I'm trying to impress on you. After Chella and I have dissected the Oscars and the nominations, Jamila Rizvi will be stepping in to talk about the incredible National Press Club address that happened today from Brittany, Higgins and Tame. We're going to be talking about the state of politics in general. Jamila, of course, is one of our most foremost political brains in this country, worked for the Labor Party. She's the woman you want to hear from. We're going to talk about the state of play because it's been a fucking shit show this last week. Oh, my God. I mean, it's only been a week since someone said since PVO from Channel 10, Peter Van Onselen, Channel 10's political reporter, said to Scomo, Gladys Berejiklian was texting with another senior MP that you're a complete psycho and a horrible, horrible person. So that's only been a week. It does feel like a lifetime. So Jamila will be stepping in for that chat. We've got you covered. Look, it's my first time doing this, really, a regular episode without MJL, but we do need to let him heal and rest.
Let the great experiment begin!
He's like, what if I come in on the phone and you just reveal the Oscar nominations to me? I'm like, babes, it's going to be okay. So you're in good hands. It's the ladies' night. Oh, what a night. We don't talk about Bruno. No. Can you believe they didn't enter that song into the Oscars? Like, what the? We'll get to that. How was your week, Pete? Mine has been full of, just as life opens back up again and we go into, school drop-offs and going back to group classes and just little, as I was driving Odie to school this week, I felt a little thrill of, oh my God, I used to do this before the pandemic. And Elio has started gymnastics classes, as some of you may have seen on my social media. And Elio is a child of the pandemic. He was not even a year old when we went into our first hard lockdown and has been in lockdown ever since, and he's just turned 3. He hasn't had a lot of social interaction with kids. He kind of sees them, he acknowledges kids, he pats them, but he doesn't see himself as one of them. I think he sees himself above other children because he's only really associated with his father, some teenage girls, and a lot of gay men. That's about it. And his grandparents, of course, but, you know, even then, there's no rules. Elio has never really had to face a rule, so we turned up to a kinder gym class in which they thought the idea of, like, you know, a little 5-minute structured warm-up might roll, and no. Elio is an agent of chaos.
Yep.
He had no interest in doing anything other than hurling himself headfirst into the massive foam pit, which was always my favourite thing. Like, when I saw him running over to the foam pit, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to go to the foam pit. How annoying. And then I threw myself in headfirst. It was glorious. I mean, if you haven't thrown yourself headfirst into a foam pit in recent times, I highly recommend it. It's so fun. And then during the class, he just kept heading back over to the foam pit. Like, the foam pit it's toddler crack, I have to tell you. It was drawing them in. All of them kept kind of wandering to the edge of the foam pit. I would pay happily, because he was exhausted, I would pay for foam pit sessions. Just throw him in there and let him try and get himself out, because it takes him 2 seconds to jump in and then a minute to get himself out. It's actually the perfect thing.
Yep.
So we did that. And also I want to let you know, like, about a little win, because so oftentimes we're here and we're commiserating with each other, and a lot of our bonding happens through my shared trauma, and I'm aware of that. So I want to also make sure you and I share joy. Odette is back at school. She's in year 10, and because she's such a brilliant artist, and she is, that's her thing. Like, it's what lights my child up, and it took us a long time to figure that out, but we got there. We tried a lot of different things, but art, my kid, and my God, she can draw and she can paint and she can make. And it was decided that she would do year 11 art, so she's going to do 1-2 art this year. And she came home from her first studio art class, and she sat with the big kids, the older kids, because Odie's quite young. She's 14 and in year 10. And she came home and she was excitedly showed me her folio, which is made my 14-year-old child, without being asked 15 times or grunting at me, looked and said, Mum, look at this. And I said, oh, how was it? And she said to me, when I sat down at the tables, I felt really happy. I like being in the class with the older kids, and I felt like it's the first time I felt really happy at school. I was like, first of all, I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, she found it. She's found her purpose, her spark, her thing. Like, she knew it, and we all knew it, but it took her realising that there's a place for her at school, and she's going to have a win at school, and she's going to be the best at something at school, and it's so important for her confidence. So when she's sitting in maths and just feeling like, what the fuck is going on? When she goes to art, she's in command. And it's like, for those of you who have seen Soul, you know, when they look for their purpose, they find their joy, their spark, and they get their earth pass. Odie got her earth pass this week.
I'm alive! I'm alive! Free yourself!
So it's just like, I walked away and had a little happy cry. I'm like, oh God, because I've been advocating for this kid since she was 7 years old, and we knew that there was a bit of a disconnect, and she was so unhappy but so bright. And of course, now we know it's the inattentive ADHD, and she's got auditory processing, and we've been able to put things in place. And finally now, I don't know, I feel like it's a bit of a reward. And we stuck at it and we found it. So one kid found the foam pit, and one kid got her earth pass, and my other kid's filling in today. So bloody hell, kicking goals as I sit here with no bra on, sweating. We don't talk about no. All right, it's time for me to go, and we're going to bring in Chella. We're going to be talking about the Oscar nominations. Gaga snubbed. Lady Gaga was snubbed.
I'm trying to teach Alessandra the importance of not touching other people's belongings.
I mean, will I ever recover? The only person nominated from that entire saga was the hair and makeup guy. Father, Son, House of Gucci.
Father, Son, and House of Gucci.
We've been talking about that, don't worry. I had a meltdown when I saw it was not okay. And that's how I knew Michael was unwell, because I texted him in capital letters at 6 a.m. this morning, Gaga snubbed. And he didn't respond straight away. That's how I knew. That's how I knew something was wrong. We're going to bring Chella in now. Then we're going to bring Jamila in. It's jam-packed. The ladies have got you. We're going to gently cup you. We're going to be the wind beneath your flaps. Here we go. Play the music.
Em and Michael Lucas. This is Emsolation.
I welcome in now Michael Lucas's very able and willing stand-in, a child, a co-host I had to grow in myself.
Oh my God, what are you? Like her mom?
This is it. This is the moment. I mean, often people in radio would say she's impossible to work with, so I literally, had to make a person who would work with me who has no choice. Thanks for stepping in last minute, babes.
No worries, that's what I'm here for.
Yes, and also, luckily today's topic is one you're quite passionate about.
Yes, I mean, you could say that.
This morning, cast your mind back. I ran into your room. I didn't say good morning. I didn't bother with anything other than
Gaga has been snubbed.
The nominees for performance by an actress in a leading role: Jessica Chastain in The Eyes of Tammy Faye,
Olivia Colman in The Lost Daughter,
Penelope Cruz in Parallel Mothers,
Nicole Kidman in Being the Ricardos,
and Kristen Stewart in Spencer.
Oh my God.
this is lead story for me. Like, yes, there is an amazing female director, Jane Campion, nominated 12 times for her movie Power of the Dog. Incredible. I hope she wins. It would be incredible because last year, obviously, a female director won with Chloe Zhao and Nomadland. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. But for me, the lead is the only person nominated from that movie was the hair and makeup guy.
Yeah. It's not going to be a good feeling.
But, like, why? I don't understand how come she's been snubbed, because she's nominated for a BAFTA. She got nominated for a Golden Globe. It's not wrong of her to think, I'm going to wake up on Oscars Day, on Nominations Day, and, I mean, my phone is going to be exploding with congratulations. I just think about poor Gaga this morning having to compose her face.
But she did well. She was very poised. Posted a photo, lovely caption.
I don't consider myself a particularly ethical person, but I am fair.
An homage to her friend and makeup artist, who is the only person from that entire film. Although I do want to bring to your attention, Marcella, that Jared Leto has been nominated for 4 Razzies.
No, it needs new ideas, new energy. And I happen to be bursting with creativity. Yes, my bladder may be full, but my dreams are even fuller.
I saw.
The Razzies are the Oscars, like, polar opposite. So they're the worst films, the worst actors, the worst performances given in the last calendar year.
Yeah.
And I do want to say leading the charge, though, is Diana the Musical.
Hello, I'm Diana.
Wow. I mean, James Hewitt. That's all I have to say. No, but do you know what? Amy Adams has also got a few Razzies.
What? For what?
Dear Evan Hansen. And she did another film and they said she looked constipated the whole time.
Oh, I won't have anyone besmirch Amy Adams. I love her. No, the Razzies are often as exciting as the Oscars, to be fair, but it's kind of iconic that no one knew if Jared was going to get an Oscar or a Razzie. I can't think of another time where it could have gone either way.
I mean, maybe he should have. Maybe we just needed that to be thrown into the mix.
You're always brushing me off. I'm a designer. I need to express myself.
That was a very chaotic performance. So, yes, Gaga has missed out. I'm very sad to not... I mean, my first thought is she going to turn up? What's the protocol here? Do you go?
I don't know. Maybe if the film had been nominated for other things, or maybe she will go in solidarity of her friend.
I think she has to go. I think she has to show up looking fuck off amazing, hold her head high. I mean, what would
Wearing Gucci.
Actually, Patrizia wouldn't go. She would curse the whole ceremony and maybe turn up in her dressing gown and throw a Molotov cocktail at the building. Like, I just feel like if she's going as Patrizia, she probably wouldn't go and she would damn everyone to hell.
It's time to take out the trash.
So, look, that was the big lead for me. But this movie that Jane Campion has been nominated for, The Power of the Dog.
A man was made by patience and the odds against him.
For what kind of man would I be if I did not help my mother? If I did not save her?
I knew it was a Western, so that turned me off.
Yep, same. Not into that. But it's got 12 noms. I know, we can't deny it. I feel like we might have to watch it.
And also, one of my favourite actresses, Kirsten Dunst, who I have loved forever and a day. I'm in your Interview with the Vampire, Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Bring It On.
Bring It On. I loved her in Becoming a God in Central Florida. She's a queen.
Yep.
She's nominated. And then what I didn't know is that she is together with the other actor in the film that's been nominated, Jesse Plemons.
Friday Night Lights.
Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
That's right. Landry Clark from Friday Night Lights, yes. They're together in real life and they met on the set of Fargo and they have children and they play like lovers in this movie and they've both said they're each other's favourite actor and they want to work together again. So
Couple goals. And they've been nommed together for the same film. Like, that doesn't happen.
I don't think so. I feel like, imagine do husband and wives win Oscars at the same time? Is there a precedent for this? That would be very exciting for me. I love that shit. So I think we will. June got 10. I loved June.
You need to face your fears.
Come with me.
Yep. That was epically epic. Although we have to wait like 2 years for the next one, but
I know, but I'm willing to wait. It just really had something for everyone. It had Timothée Chalamet for Odette, Oscar Isaacs for me, Jason Momoa for you. It just was cross-generational. It gave us everything we wanted. And also, what else was nominated that we... Oh, now I haven't seen Licorice Pizza, starring the girl from Haim.
Alana.
Yes.
No, I went and saw that. I loved it. It's been nommed for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, which is the big three you want. Like, that's the impressive ones.
And Bradley Cooper is in it in a lot of white linen. Here's my favourite bit from the trailer that I've watched.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
Do you know who my girlfriend is?
Barbra Streisand?
Barbra Streisand.
Sand.
Sand, yeah, like sands, like the ocean.
I do want to see that now. That looks like a film that I would enjoy. I was avoiding it. I don't know why, but it kind of looks like
it's the
coming of
perfect
age
vibe. It's a coming of age. It's like an offbeat sort of romance, but... And Alana Haim's, like, her character is just a vibe because she just, like, walks around telling everyone to essentially... Can I swear in this? Do we swear?
You can swear, it's fine.
Okay, well, she tells everyone to fuck off the whole time. She's just, like, smoking cigarettes and, like, running around town and telling people to fuck off. So she's a mood.
Sold.
Yeah.
Will Smith is up for Best
King Richard.
Actor.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air might get an Oscar. But then one of the most exciting categories, obviously Best Actress, yes. Nicole Kidman, our Nicole, nominated for playing Lucille Ball. Kristen Stewart is nominated for playing Princess Diana. Jessica Chastain is nominated. Olivia Colman and Penelope Cruz is nominated also. So, you know.
But do you know what? None of those actresses are nommed in a Best Picture. And that hasn't happened for, I think, like 15, 16 years.
Often happens, though. If you want to win the Oscar, you do the biopic and you become the person. And
True.
It has happened in the past where the film is balls, but the performance can't be denied.
Yeah.
A la old mate who played Freddie Mercury.
Hi, I'm Rami Malek.
True, that was a mess.
So, and the guy from Rocket Man too.
Hello there, I'm Taron Egerton and I play Elton John in Rocket Man.
One of the big categories that's really bringing the big guns out is Best Song.
Yes, although we're still mad about Disney's fuck up with not nominating.
Yeah, so Encanto's big here. Okay, Encanto's big here. Now, they've decided when you enter the Oscars, you can enter the Oscars, by the way, they put in this song, it's called Dos Oruguitas.
Ay, oruguitas, no se aguante más, hay que crecer aparte y volver hacia adelante.
Now, they went with that song over arguably the greatest song to come out in the last 10 years. We don't talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno, no. We don't talk about Bruno.
Which has overtaken Let It Go.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Or I would have accepted Pressure.
Like a drip, drip, drip that'll never stop. Whoa.
Any of the first 4 songs, The Family of Madrigal, that one's epic too.
Welcome to the family, Madrigal.
Madrigal.
Yes, so good.
Welcome to the family, Madrigal. The home of the family, Madrigal. We're on
So many bangers, and they chose, I get it, it's the first totally Spanish language song Lynn has written. I understand why they put it in.
Yeah.
It's lovely. The other thing to point out that the other contenders are just a little artist called Beyonce.
Feels so good to be alive. That's a cool one.
I mean, sure, we'll put a grab in now too. You don't just get Chella's.
No, you don't need it. You don't need it. That was perfect.
You really nailed it. From King Richard. King Richard is the story of Serena and Venus Williams' ambitious father and how he kind of helped them on their meteoric rise through the tennis world. So that's what that movie's about. Also, we have No Time to Die by Billie Eilish.
Now you'll never see me cry. There's just no time to die.
Yep. Which will probably win. Like, that's the obvious choice.
We have Down to Joy by COVID denier Van Morrison.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah, and also we have Somehow You Do by Diane Warren. So like, it's Titans. And another fact I love, if Lynn gets this, he officially gets his EGOT, which is an Emmy, an Oscar, a Grammy and a Tony, and not many people have achieved the EGOT. Beyonce also would be, she's missing a Tony, I think, but this would be Lynn, like this is a big deal for Lynn if he takes it out. So I'm kind of hoping for that.
Well, I just feel like then he should have been more strategic and they should have put in Bruno.
I think this was strategic putting in the Spanish language one. I truly do. I do.
Oh, yeah.
I think it'll be the sentimental fave. But look, you know, it's coming up on the 27th of March. I am also really happy that Andrew Garfield, who played Jonathan Larson, the creator of Rent, in Tick Tick Boom.
This is the life of Bo 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 Bo. This is the life of Bo 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 Bo. This is the life of Bo 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 Bohemia.
I think, you know, he's having a moment, Andrew Garfield. I wouldn't be mad if he won.
No, I'm so here for that. I think he should.
I agree too. So we'll obviously keep you informed. I don't know if I'm going to get over Gaga not being nominated. What do I even focus on? I mean, I guess Kristen Stewart. What is she going to wear? And if she actually ends up winning, imagine the speech.
If she actually even ends up going.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past her to just be like, no, I'm not vibing it this year. Thanks, guys.
We'll be back next with Jamila Rizvi to talk about the incredible National Press Club address that went down today. Brittany Higgins and Grace Tame both addressed the National Press Club gallery and it was electrifying. Grace Tame saying the words, and I quote, "Brace yourselves." That's next.
Em Rusciano and Michael Lucas. This is Emsolation.
Okay, well, given the fact that Michael is unwell, I'm bringing in, look, to be honest, I'm kind of glad it's her because it's been a big fucking day. Jamila Rizvi, thank you for stepping in with like an hour's notice.
Anytime at all. It's not a big day. There's nothing much happening around the traps. So I had a lot of time on my hands.
Babes, I just want to, okay, let's do an episode recap for everyone to bring them up to speed. So obviously it's been only a week since Scomo was called a psycho and a horrible, horrible person to his face by Channel 10 political reporter Peter Van Onselen. He was speaking about a leaked text message exchange between Gladys Berejiklian and an unknown MP. And everyone's like, oh, wonder who it was. Barnaby Joyce then came out and said, oh, we need to find out who it was. They need to name themselves. And then a few hours later, Barnaby Joyce said, actually, forget it. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Doesn't matter about the texting. And then after that, it came out that Barnaby had also been texting some shit about Scomo. And after that jam, there was a tour of grovelling and snivelling from Barnaby, just really inserting himself in Scomo's anus. Have a listen.
Working one-on-one with him is a completely different scenario. I know the Prime Minister vastly better now. And as I've said before, he's honoured every agreement I've heard him say to others and every agreement he's had with me. And they're the actions of a person who is trustworthy.
And then former New South Wales Premier Bob Carr sends out a tweet going, it was totally Peter Dutton who called Scomo a psycho. Totally. Dutton said, no, man, it is not me. Check yourself, Bob Carr. And then threw his 100% support behind the PM. And I don't know if you know sport, but when the board supports the coach 100%, he gets sacked the next week. And Jamila, on a side note, like, if Peter Dutton is planning a coup, imagine having his self-confidence thinking that's going to work.
Look, firstly, I want to commend you for that summary because it was quite similar to Laura Tingle on 7:30 last week. It's pretty much how she said it all went down. Word for word. Word for word.
My take on the saga that is Ospol at the moment. But Peter Dutton tried this obviously with Turnbull.
Yeah.
And he fancied himself. He fucking fancied himself.
Oh, I don't think you can use the ED on the end of that word. He fancies himself. He has always fancied himself. Despite being a very, very, very scary man, he thinks he can be electorally popular. He thinks he can be electorally popular.
That's what I'm like, the audacity of this man. I fantasize about having that kind of delusional self-belief. He genuinely thinks if he was the leader of the Liberal Party, he would fucking get elected. Like, hats up. Good parenting. Whoever raised that man, far out.
Is it? I don't know if it is good parenting. I think I've got some questions for those parents. The interesting thing is that within the coalition, within the Liberal National Party and within the Liberal Party room, who chooses the leader of that party, Dutton is the favourite amongst the Conservatives, and they do like him, even if others don't.
I know. Andrew Bolt likes him too. Even Andrew Bolt has turned on Scomo and said that he looks to be finished, he's making a fool of himself, and that old potato man needs to get ready to lead. But I think people are ignoring the real threat. You know, I like my theories, my uneducated theories.
Okay, yeah.
Frydenberg.
Oh, no, that's not a crazy theory. I mean, Frydenberg could be the other one putting his hand up, absolutely.
I believe Dutton's like doing a little bit of, look at me. I think Frydenberg's going to make the moves.
And I would say at a political level, I think he's safe for this election now. I think the general view is it's just too close. It's too late. But we have seen parties change horses, so to speak, pretty close to an election. We've seen that happen, to be honest, the last handful of elections, because Labor swapped from Rudd to Gillard and went to an election not long after that. Then Labor swapped from Gillard to Rudd and went to an election not long after that. And then Tony Abbott wins, and then Abbott, we go to Turnbull and there's an election not long after that, and then Turnbull we go to Scomo and there's an election not long after that. So, I mean, there's form. There's form for it to happen at the last minute.
Bonkers. And on February 12th, isn't it Super Saturday? New South Wales gets 4 by-elections, high profile, and one's Libs, one's Labor, there's a National in there, and these 4 by-elections really give a barometer on how old Dominic's going and also how Scomo's gone. Because if any of those seats turn, I feel like if Super Saturday, if Feb 12 goes wrong, I think Scomo's fucked. I think there could be a coup. I really think like they might go into crisis mode. But I mean, it's just a shit show. And so yesterday, Scomo formally apologised, I'll call him the Prime Minister, formally apologised in Parliament to victims of sexual assault, harassment and bullying in parliamentary workplaces.
And I particularly want to acknowledge Ms Brittany Higgins, whose experience and, more importantly, courage is the reason why we are all here today. And I want to thank her for that. I am sorry. We are sorry. I'm sorry to Ms Higgins for the terrible things that took place here. And the place that should have been a place of safety and contribution turned out to be a nightmare.
And then 24 hours later, we had what I think is one of the most extraordinary speeches ever given at the
National Press Club. You want a fun fact on the National Press Club?
I was going to ask you, can you explain to Emsolation listeners what that is? Because we've been hearing a lot about it and not everyone knows what that is.
Yeah, so it's a club the same way you have an RSL or your football club or your local cricket club, right? Except it's a little bit fancier. It is a club for journalists who work in the Canberra Press Gallery. It's got a bar and a restaurant and stuff upstairs. Downstairs, there's a ballroom type function room. And every Wednesday, there is a major speech held at the National Press Club. Sometimes it's a politician. Sometimes it's a policy maker. Sometimes it's someone influential from the not-for-profit sector. Sometimes it's an economist. Most of the time, we don't pay a lot of attention to who's speaking. Occasionally, we pay a bit more attention. And then there are days like today when it is news-making content happening at the National Press Club. And it's interesting because it's been 2 weeks in a row because, as you mentioned earlier, last week it was the Prime Minister at the National Press Club where he got asked whether or not he was indeed a psycho because people were texting about that. And then this week at the National Press Club, we've had Grace Tame and Brittany Higgins. And my fun fact is that I was a waitress at the National Press Club when I was 18 because I'd be walking around being like, hello, do you want the chicken or the beef? And then I get to listen to the speech because I was cool then the same way I'm cool now.
You are cool.
So cool.
Oh my God, I love that fact about you. That's so on brand. I'm sorry, but that is the most on brand job for you I could think of. The only other thing would maybe be a librarian's assistant in the political section of the state library or something like that. Like, I couldn't hope for more from you. I worked in a legal pizza joint and got paid in cash. So that, I feel that works for me as well.
Yeah,
it was run by gangsters. I used to turn up to work. There'll be bullet holes in the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it works for both of us. So yes, today our sexual assault survivor Brittany Higgins and sexual assault survivor advocate and former Australian of the Year Grace Tame spoke. Sidebar to this. You would think that if you, not 24 hours earlier, as the Prime Minister of Australia had apologised to, well, essentially Brittany Higgins, when he did, you would turn up for this address or at least listen to it live. But our Prime Minister did not, Jam.
No, he didn't. And look, he's a busy man. It's a long way to travel. It's about 600 metres from Parliament House in Canberra to the National Press Club. And, you know, that's a 5-minute walk. He's a busy man. He's got a lot on. I mean, he wasn't there. He sent a bunch of his women ministers. He's got a lot of them.
Who didn't stand and clap at the end of the speeches, by the way.
They did
Noted.
not. They applauded from their seats. Oh, look, I've got to say, I felt a little bit sorry for them. Don't love their politics, but they were kind of thrown into the lion's den and they couldn't please anyone during that speech. They just had to sort of sit there very stony-faced so that no one took a photo of them that made them look like they were agreeing with what was being said on stage.
No blinking, no nodding, nothing. Just like... Like
staring, bug-eyed.
So he it kind of makes the apology for me a bit hollow.
Yeah, I think that's legitimate. I mean, I think these two women are extraordinary and nothing takes away from that. But no part of me expected the Prime Minister to be there today or to take much notice of what those two women had to say today. Brittany Higgins was only invited to the formal apology the day before 24 hours in advance because she was like, hey, maybe I could be invited.
You're joking. What?
She had to push for her own invitation. She got it 24 hours before and there was some, there's a mix-up and we didn't, there's a lot of security, COVID. We can't have many people in the building.
Hang on. Didn't they let some Freedom unvaccinated protesters into Parliament House this week? Didn't they sign them in?
There are some questions to be asked, I think, about the suggestion that Brittany Higgins would have been invited, but there were some things that got in the way. But to me, I don't know, Em, I didn't think about the Prime Minister at all during the speech of those two women. They were standing there in their power. The bar was so high. And they cleared it with room to spare. Those speeches were electric. We're going to be talking about them for ages.
I agree. I just got goosebumps thinking about it. Brittany Higgins started, and for me, one of the most poignant parts, and the thing that I've been hung up on is that idea that, well, have a listen.
What bothered me most about the whole imagine if it were our daughter's spiel wasn't that he necessarily needed his wife's advice to help contextualise my rape in a way that mattered to him personally. And that's how he realised it was a bad thing. I didn't want his sympathy as a father. I wanted him to use his power as Prime Minister.
So I'm so glad she addressed that so publicly.
Me as well. I also want to just speak to the personal courage that would take, not just of someone who has experienced, allegedly, horrific abuse inside the walls of Parliament House. Not just someone who is speaking directly to a Prime Minister through the media, but to a Prime Minister, but someone who grew up in the Liberal Party. You know, she was a staffer. She would have idolised senior Liberal parliamentarians. When she worked as a staffer, the Prime Minister is the most important person in that building. And to speak truth to power in that way, I think, is really magnificent. The other thing Brittany Higgins said, which really stayed with me, was she talked about the Gaetjens report. Phil Gaetjens is the head of the Prime Minister's department, and he was charged with investigating the Prime Minister's own office to see whether or not Scott Morrison's staff knew about the allegations that Brittany Higgins had been raped in Parliament House before it became public. That report has not been handed down. They've had a year. What do you mean?
Why not?
They're still working on it. There would be, 50 staff in the Prime Minister's office? Like, if they were chatting to one a week, they should be done by now. It doesn't take that long. They haven't finished that report, hasn't been handed down, about what the Prime Minister's office knew about her alleged rape. And what she said in the speech was that she has now come to terms with the fact she will probably never see that report. That even if it gets done, it'll never be made public, that she won't get the chance to have that as part of her healing. And I just thought, what amazing maturity, but also maturity she just shouldn't have to have.
Yeah, I
agree.
know,
as a survivor who's been through what she has so publicly, she is entitled to know what people knew and when.
I feel like there's a real disconnect on the way the Liberal Party and especially the Prime Minister's inner circle treat her. If this was any other situation in any other environment, the humanity's been sucked out of this. They're not thinking about her as a person who's had a traumatic experience. They're looking at her as a liability, as collateral damage, as someone that could cost them the election. Yeah, that's what got me, is the dehumanising of these survivors.
Yep.
And there's two women who have shown up, especially Brittany, in a place that would bring nothing but trauma for her. She stood there and she was composed, and I would have been sobbing and angry, and we expected that of her, because if she had have shown any anger, or if she had have turned up not looking as immaculate as she did, like the pressure that we put on a woman who's already been through so much, and both of them were so articulate, and you could see the pressure and stress they both felt in delivering everything without stumbling, without showing too much emotion. For fuck's sake, if they wanted to turn up in their pajamas, we owe them that. But instead, they're still having to show up in this perfect way to not be criticised and be able to get a message across without having people come for them and their families and their reputations. I was just watching them just thinking, fucking hell, what we have expected of these two incredible women, it makes me fucking angry. And then Grace Tame got up, and my God, she's fucking electrifying. What an advocate. What an orator. The way she got up there and she's completely owned it, not allowing anything to intimidate her.
The fact that she refuses to play by the social rules, by the media's rules, by political rules. She just stands up there and goes, no, I'm doing this my way, and I won't bow to all of these expectations that I should be polite, that I should smile in a photo, that I should behave in a way that you all expect me to behave, but that I do not want to. And I think that's made even stronger by the fact that she represents survivors of child abuse and survivors of sexual assault, because as a child, she had her agency stripped from her, and she was put in a position where she was forced to be quiet, forced to play the game, forced to play nice, and she has lived that for year upon year upon year because of a man who should have been stopped decades before her. He was abusing girls at that school before she was born. Was born, and teachers knew about it. It had been reported. So she was subjected to that for years. And it's like she has come to a place in herself where she said, never again. Never again am I just sticking by the playing nice standards because that's what people expect of me, because I know that's dangerous. And by refusing that, I don't know, she's just claimed this power that I don't think I've ever seen in another human being.
So, after a year of being re-victimised, commodified, objectified, sensationalised, delegitimized, misquoted, gaslit and thrown under the bus by the biased mainstream media, despite my inclusive messaging, I would just like to take this opportunity to have a glass of water. And thank you for reminding me that I really have nothing to lose.
I was sitting at my computer and I dropped everything and I was like, oh, here she goes.
Brace yourselves. On the 17th of August last year, not 5 months after being named Australian of the Year, I received a threatening phone call from a senior member of a government-funded organisation asking for my word that I wouldn't say anything damning about the Prime Minister on the evening of the next Australian of the Year Awards. You're an influential person. He'll have a fear, they said. A fear? What kind of fear? I asked myself. A fear for our nation's most vulnerable? A fear for the future of our planet? And then I heard the words, you know, with an election coming soon. And it crystallised. A fear. A fear for himself and no one else. A fear that he might lose his position, or more to the point, his power. Sound familiar to anyone? Well, it does to me.
The fact that she was able to so articulately point out that the same thing that happened to her as a kid, being told to shut up or you'll cost me my job, has happened to her again. Shut up or this powerful man will lose his job. And the way she was able to put that together without breaking things, and I know this has been said, but you burn a woman to the ground, you strip her of everything, it's scorched earth. There is nothing more powerful than a woman who survives the scorched earth. And she has gone scorched earth, and she would be terrifying because no one can manipulate that woman anymore. And that would be terrifying to the Prime Minister's office.
I also thought it was interesting that both women in different ways levelled the same criticism at institutions, government, media, elements of the community, which is that, yes, we have done a remarkable job in the last 12 months of talking about these questions and issues that don't usually get talked about. We have brought allegations of sexual assault and sexual harassment into the light, and we have started a conversation. But unless we can move from the talking about to the doing, the talking about is meaningless. And if we're all going to stand around patting ourselves on the back because we're talking about it, that doesn't help people like Brittany and Grace. That doesn't help a kid who's going to school every day and being abused. And the fact that the state legislation in different territories and different jurisdictions means that they can be their abuser can be charged or go to jail for completely different periods of time. That doesn't help someone like Brittany, who's going to court in June to face her alleged rapist and try and get some effing justice. That doesn't do anything for them. Talking only gets us so far.
And I think that's what we all need to remember when we go to vote. I hope that the women of this country especially want more for themselves. So where to from here, Jamila Rizvi? Who's going to win the election?
Oh, God, that's a hard question. I am someone whose optimism has slowly over time just been kind of chipped away.
Oh, so God, we're in trouble if you're not.
I don't feel hugely optimistic for my team, which is the Labor Party. But I do think it is possible. I do think people are concerned about Scott Morrison's repeated failures with the truth and his willingness to paint a pretty picture over clear errors of judgment that have cost people dearly. And when I say cost people dearly, the thing that has cost a whole lot of people in this country is their lives through this pandemic. So I do think that there is some frustration and readiness for change. But this country is complicated. It's not as simple as the majority of Australians vote for one party over the other and we're done. That's not how it works. It's about the right votes in the right seats for the right people. So the electoral math is tricky, but it could absolutely go either way.
I feel like at the moment a bit scared and in free fall, and not dissimilar to what was happening around the US elections, where you just felt like all bets are fucking off. There is no humanity. We're going for the throat. We're going whatever it takes to win. We're going to do. And I'm getting the taste of that in the water. And as a citizen of this country, I genuinely feel scared of what are they going to do to win? What are they going to distract us with? What shit are they going to dig up? What horrible things are going to happen? And what things are going to be passed without us even knowing because we're being distracted by something else? I'm scared for the next 12 weeks in my country because it feels different. It feels nasty and personal and unsafe.
Yeah, and I think the risk of that is that good people who are interested in what happens to this country but not really interested in politics, which is I think most people, turn away because the ugly stuff, unless you're a political junkie like you and me, you're not sitting up close and watching it. You're going, oh, gross, I don't want to see that. And you look away and you focus on other things. But right now we really need people to focus on this stuff because this election's really important.
Well, Jamila, thank you so much. This has given me everything I hoped for. Just fucking Grace Tame and Brittany Higgins. Like, I've never cheered at a National Press Club situation. I was just going fucking yes. It was like a football match. It was some kind of sporting concert for me today.
It was like going to church. Went to church today and the preachers were incredible. It felt good. It felt really good. And I want to live in a country that listens to people like that and more importantly, takes action off the back of what they've got to say.
So important. Thank you, my darling. Thank you for filling in. You're a gem.
Anytime.
Thanks, babes.
This is Emsolation.
Okay, that's all we have time for. I do want to urge you, if you haven't yet seen Grace Tame and Brittany Higgins speaking at the National Press Club, I implore you to, I encourage you to. It will put you in your feels. It will put you in your power. It was an amazing moment in time, truly. I also want to thank my daughter, Chella, for stepping in to talk Oscars. I want to thank Jamila Rizvi. They both had no notice and they stepped in and they stepped up. We don't talk about Bruno. I've done some research. I've spoken to some people and it is the general consensus that it's not okay for me to sing in a heavy Spanish accent because it can kind of like reinforce harmful stereotypes. So I thought maybe I could sing it like Patrizia Reggiani because she's Italian and I'm Italian. But then when I tried to do that, it was even more offensive. So I'm just going to sing it just like me, just natural. That means we don't talk about Bruno. It's such a good song. It's just it's going to be in your head forever and ever. I can't believe that's not the song they didn't put in the Oscars. What were they thinking? Before I go, I want to check the voicemails. I already have. I've already heard them, but I want you to hear them and then there's lots to unpack in these too. Okay, let's check.
Hi, Em and the entire Emsolation team. Love your work. Just want to put it out there. I'm very much looking forward to your show in Brisbane in May. I'm going solo and thought we might throw it out there and see if any Emsolators want to catch up for a drink beforehand, whether or not you're going solo or with friends. It'd be great to meet some other Emsolators in the flesh right before we see Queen Em. Thanks. Bye.
Hi, Em and Michael. For the love of God, please tell me that we are going to discuss Tommy Lee talking to his penis in Pam and Tommy because I'm still getting my head around this, but I have to hear your guys' take on it. So please make sure you've watched it because I have a feeling you're both going to have a lot to say.
Okay, loving the idea of all the Brisbane Emsolators meeting up before my live show. I am playing QPAC in May. I think there's 25 tickets left. It's not a lot. There's only single tickets left, I think. I don't know. If you Google it, you'll be able to see. I'm sorry. I'll get Ben to put a link in. I'll get Marcella to put a link into my live shows this week on the Instagram. But yes, meet up in the flesh. You're all very like-minded individuals. The second voicemail, this is very complex. I'm extremely torn. I feel weird in my ethics about even watching Pam and Tommy. For those of you who don't know, Hulu made I think it's a 6-part short limited series around Pam Anderson and Tommy Lee and the sex tape and how that all exploded and the players involved in that. And Pamela Anderson doesn't want to be a part of it, didn't want it going out. And I remember thinking, oh, this makes me feel weird that she's not a part of this story. And then, you know, there's a lot of kind of think pieces around it saying, no, this is empowering her. This is actually telling her side of the story. But still, she didn't want it to go out there. And then I looked into it more, and the film is written and directed and produced by men. I think the episodes are all produced by women, but I know the original concept and the showrunner is a man. And again, to me, it kind of feels like the entertainment industry is once again profiting from Pamela Anderson's trauma without her consent. So Michael has watched it. And yes, there is a scene, and Tommy Lee did kind of vividly outline this in his autobiography. He was once so high that he had a conversation with his dick about how much he loved Pamela Anderson. What is this sentence? He had a conversation with his penis about how much he loved Pamela Anderson, and in the show, they have chosen to recreate this scene with a penis puppet, and he has a proper conversation with the penis puppet. And I just wish I could have been in the writer's room when someone pitched that, because it is the only kind of fantastical moment in the whole thing, and probably the only bit that I laugh at and I applaud. But everything else, yeah, I feel like, you know, they've come out and said we want to sympathise with Pam, but also they've dug up all the trauma and her personal story for a financial gain again. So that's the long-winded answer to your question, and why we probably won't talk about it on the podcast, because I'm not going to watch it in solidarity with Pammy. Wow. Okay, that was a lot. We'll catch you next week. We found a new office. I won't say anything else till I've signed the lease, but we have found a new Emsolation space, which is very exciting. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Emsolation Podcast. Chella is a social media captain. Everything you need to know will be going up there. Make sure you've signed up to the newsletter. It is the show notes. It's everything you need to enjoy this episode. You know, if you're not getting the Emsolation newsletter, you're only getting half the story. I finished Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I loved it so much. I'm ready for season 4. I can't decide who I wanted to be with. I'm living for the Gilded Age. It's terrible. I hate it. I give it 10 out of 10. That's on Paramount Plus. It's just like a Downton Abbey, but in New York, and Christine Baranski is like the snuffly, rich old spinster that hates everyone. On paper, it is my dream. It's terrible. It's amazing. I hate it. 10 out of 10. So if you're looking for something to watch to purely escape, I highly recommend it. It's terrible. Okay, that's enough from me. I think that's everything. Have a wonderful week, and we will chat. Hopefully, I don't know what's going to develop in the world of Australian politics between now and next Thursday. I'm scared. All right, gang. Speak soon. Bye.
Emsolation with Em Rusciano is a Spotify exclusive podcast hosted by Em Rusciano with Michael Lucas. Executive produced by Benjamin Wasley. Produced by Em Rusciano. Edited by Ezekiel Fan at Entente Music. With videos by Liam O'Brien. Socials by Marcella Rusciano Barrow. With assistance from Jem Evans and Georgia Watts. Plus occasional technical wizardry, wine and coffee from Em's dad Vince. Get more Emsolation by following the Emsolation podcast on Instagram, where you can also sign up for our weekly newsletter. You can join other Emsolators at the Emsolation group on Facebook. The answer is Harry Styles. If you love what we do, share this podcast with a friend and make sure you're following us on the Spotify app. Thanks for taking time out to listen to this week's episode, and we look forward to chatting with you again soon.